Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. I'm Nika and I make book related videos, and today I'm gonna share all my September reads with you all. So let's begin, because September was a really good month for me, so I do have quite a lot to talk about. As you might know that I have been dealing with reading slump for quite some time, so I wasn't really reading a lot, and September is the month when I turned it all around for me. I did the whole reading slump treatment plan and it really worked. I will make sure to link the video here, around somewhere here, so that you can check it out, and if you have, or if you are going through a reading slump yourself, then maybe try it out and see how it works, see if it works for you as well. So I tried it and I ended up reading 14 books in September, which I definitely count as a win, because 14 books a month is not really a very realistic number, but luckily I could do it. And so without further ado, I'm gonna dive right in. So out of those 14, I read a few as ebooks, and I read a few as physical copies. So in no particular order, I'm gonna show them to you. I knew that I wanted to go back to my whole childhood favorites, middle grade favorite and all of that. So I decided to pick up Famous 5 book 1, which is 5 on a Treasure Island. I bought both versions. This is just book 1, and this one is actually a collection of the first 3 books I actually read this version while reading at all, but I really like this version as well. It's very cute. So this one, in the first book, basically we get introduced to the 5 characters in the first place. It's 3 brother and sister, like siblings, and then 1 cousin, because their dads are brothers basically. So the Famous 5, because it's 5 of them kids, is Julian, Annie, Dick and George, and their dog, I just forgot, Timothy. So basically what happens is that they get together for summer, and there is this little island just near their place, and it belongs to George, her family, or rather George, and there just might be treasure in it. So it's a very interesting book. I'm sure so many of us have grown up reading Famous 5, Secret 7 and in Blyton in general, and I think it was a really wonderful time for me, going back to my childhood, going back to classics, rediscovering all the different reasons why I fell in love with reading in the first place. So I'm really happy I read this book. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Then moving on, I wanted to try a short book, and just as one of the steps for the reading slump treatment plan, and this is the book that I read. It is called The Testament of Mary, and I'm not really sure how to pronounce the author's name, unfortunately, but basically what this book is, it's a literary fiction short novella kinda, and it follows the story of Mother Mary and how the author has imagined what her life was like growing up her son Jesus, and then in the aftermath as well, and basically placing Jesus as not only in this the Son of God figure that we know today, but as perhaps a son, as perhaps a man himself, so who might perhaps where he's going with his thoughts, with his philosophies and all of that. So it was a bit different. However, although it's Jesus is a character in this book, it's mostly Mary's story, so it's quite interesting. However, to a certain extent, perhaps maybe because I was reading it in the throes of my reading slump, I didn't really applaud this book. It was a nice enough read, but nothing really remarkable or memorable for me at that point of time. I might have a different opinion had I read it at a different time, but so far it didn't really strike me that well, and I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Then moving on, I read the latest Emily Henry book, which is Happy Place, and this basically follows a group of friends who are meeting together at one of their kind of like villas by the sea, so that they can reminisce about the past, their friendship and everything. What happens is that within this whole friends group, there is this one couple, Harriet and Wynne, and they've been together for a long time, and everyone still thinks they're together. The thing, however, is that they have broken up 6 months before the timeline of the book, when it's set, the present timeline of the book. So it's really interesting. It deals a lot with their friendship dynamics, how they came to be living in college and all of that, and I think it was done quite well. Moreover, I do think that this book deals with a lot of pertinent issues, like what to do after you've achieved what you wanted to do. Maybe in terms of career questions are ones that do come up often. What if you are not as competitive as you probably should be in this rat race of a world? What if you're not good enough? All those questions, they make this book a really relevant one. However, at some point I did feel like it was a bit too stretched. So if that would not have been the case, I might have perhaps enjoyed it a lot more. Overall, it was a fun one-time read, I would say. Nothing that I would go back to and pick it up again. So yeah, I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Moving on, I decided to pick up one of my comfort books basically. This is Before Your Memory Fades, and it is book 3 in the whole Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. The latest one has just come out now and I've got the book, so I'm gonna try and pick it up soon, very soon. But basically what happens is that we follow the different customers as well as the different people working in this cafe in Japan. And this cafe is really special because it helps you, any customer, go back in past, but of course there are certain terms and conditions applied. So why I picked up not just this book but the whole series was that I just thought that this was the kind of vibe I really wanted back when I was picking up the first book. It's calm, it's slow going, slow living, something that I was really emulating in my life at the point, and I still am trying to do that. It's like you're sitting down with beautiful people, with friends all with their own stories. You're slowing down from your everyday fast-paced race to just enjoy your cup of coffee or tea or boba tea, whatever it is, and you're just talking and connecting with people rather than just being busy on your phone or all of that. So yeah, this book has taught me a lot of patience. I really like them, not in terms of pacing, that too, but in terms of how the people live their life, living it sometimes, enjoying the moments, living in the moments, which is something that I think we have lost in contemporary life, especially in big cities and everything. So yeah, this is of course a forever favorite at this point, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. So one of my highlights of September was reading this book, and it is called In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. I read Her Body and Other Parties, which is a collection of short stories by this author, back in August, and that one didn't really strike my fancy quite as much as I was expecting. It was a bit underwhelming. However, this book I really loved. So this is basically a memoir of the author as she was in an abusive relationship with another woman, and it was a difficult read. I won't say it wasn't. I just want to put it out there in the very beginning that since it is a non-fiction, I don't really rate non-fictions, just to be clear, but if I had to rate it, this would be a clear 5-star. But again, like I said, I feel like it's kind of unfair to judge someone's memoir, especially when they're talking about such a sensitive subject. It's like you're judging them on how it made you feel, on their literary capability, but what about the feelings that goes behind writing all of this? It's a very complicated topic, and I feel like I keep on changing my mind about it sometime or the other, but at this point I don't think I'm gonna rate it like that. But yeah, it was an interesting book overall. Even apart from the topic, I think the way it is written is very innovative, because see, generally what happens is that I as a literature student, I was taught what a prologue is, what an epilogue is, what an epistolary novel is, say what different genres are, what kind of writing something is, epistolary, I just said that, didn't I? So all of that. So what this book does is it employs all of these literary tropes, literary narratives, forms of writing, and comes up with something that is so very innovative. So we have this section, and it is very short. There are some sections which are quite longer. There are some sections which are just, let's say, 1 page, 2 page long, all of that. This one is Dream House as a soap opera, Dream House as fantasy, Dream House as rapture, Dream House as lost in translation, Dream House as appetite, Dream House as an idiom, It's very interesting. Dream House is a road trip to everywhere. So the author has really employed so many different techniques of writing it. It makes it really a good book to read as a reader. And apart from that, it talks a lot about abuse within the lesbian slash gay community, which, for the longest time, whenever we joke, and it's true that whenever we as girls joke with our friends, with our very best female friends, we're like, oh, if we were both into women, perhaps we would have married each other, and all of those jokes, we have all said it. And that's because we all think that lesbian relationships or gay relationships are very easy going, very smooth sailing and everything. And to be honest, that is the impression that I have had until this book. So since it is a non-fiction, the author does talk about how abuse within the LGBTQIA community, or within LGBTQIA let's say relationships, is often hidden or not talked about as much, and that is where she's hoping to make a change and everything. So I think that really opened my eyes. So yeah, this was one book. Again, I would say that go in knowing about all of the basic, the basic trigger warnings. So I would say go in knowing all of that, because it's not really for everyone. It is a heavy topic since it's abuse and everything, and there are so many different layers to everything. So yeah, go in knowing all of that. Moving on, I finally I gave into the hype and I picked up Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. So what happens in this book is that we follow this girl called Violet, who for the longest time, this is a fantasy world mind you, who for the longest time has been thinking that, oh, she'll go into the scribes quadrant of their society. Scribes quadrant is basically like librarians and everything who write the histories that have happened. Let's say very much of a desk job. But what happens is at the last moment, her mother is a general in the army, and the mom is like, you have to go and become a dragon rider. Yes, there are dragons in this book. So the mom is like, you have to go and become a dragon rider, because that's what people in our family do, and you have to do it too. So she has to quickly train to become something that other people, have trained for years from their birth, let's say, because they know they want to be dragon riders, or they are forced to be dragon riders. Different scenarios. But yeah, it is that, and it is very, very interesting, and I have to say that I really enjoyed it. It's a very fun read. There's romance, there's found family, there's academic rivalry, there's so many competitions. Since they are in a war college, they are going through drills and practice every day almost. So it's very, very action paced. The pace is never slow in this book, and if you're looking for something like that, then this is a book that you can definitely pick out. That said, it is also book one in a series. I don't know how long the series is going to be, however, if it's going to be duology, trilogy, or a whole series, not sure about that. But I do know that the second part, that is Iron Wing, is coming out on November 3rd, I believe, very soon. So you won't have to wait a long time to read that as well, which I'm glad about as well. So I would say that maybe give it a chance. It's very, very interesting, and I really actually had a wonderful time reading it. Although I have to say, after I was done reading it and everything, there were some parts which I really found cringe with the way the romance blossomed between these two. But if you can overlook that, it's an interesting read, and there I can understand why this is so hyped on Instagram at this moment, because it's definitely a lot of fun, and there are some heartbreaking scenes, of course, as you can expect in any romance. But yeah, also the dragons were definitely a highlight in the book. I think they were so sassy, they were so amazing, they were so layered as well, which the author does really well. So yeah, I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Then moving on, I also read a huge graphic novel. So this is On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. This is a graphic novel that was gifted to me on my birthday by my dear friend Shivani, and I finally picked it up. So what happens is that this, like I said, it's a graphic novel, and it is sort of like a sci-fi graphic novel. What happens is that we follow this ragtag group of I don't know what you're going to call them. They travel on their spaceship and they repair the different structures, different architectural structures, buildings in space that have fallen into ruin. So that's their job. Again, there's a lot of found family element in this book. Although we follow just one storyteller, the main heroine, there are a lot of other people within her group, and I love their aspect, the family aspect, because everybody is from different backgrounds, different stories, different alliances, not alliances, different thought processes, different beliefs and all of that, but I think the author has done it really well, and the art style is kind of different, but I really like it, as you can see. So there's also a lot of reminiscing about the past, because the girl, the heroine basically, who has joined this group, she used to go to this school and she had this other person with whom she had a bond, but then it didn't end off like the way it should have, so she keeps on thinking about the other person and everything. There's a lot of back and forth in terms of time, but it's not at all confusing, in case that's what you're thinking about. So it's really interesting. I think I rated it a 4 stars, because it's really good. I would definitely recommend it to you. It's fun, and even though it's big, since it's a graphic novel, it is a pretty quick read. I think I read it in like 2-3 days, not 3-4 days more like, because I was reading a bit every day before bed, because I was trying to keep away my phone and not indulge in the phone much. So this is a book that I would go to for my to take something in visually, for my visual simulation before sleeping at night. So that's what I was doing. So again, like I said, it was a very interesting book. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. So the last physical book that I have to talk about is a review copy that was sent to me by the author, and I'm really very grateful. And this book is none other than Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty. Now this book also has been doing the rounds on Bookstagram, and I was very intrigued to pick it up, because I've been seeing just good things about this book so far. So I thought I would read it sometime in the future, because I was dealing with a reading slump at that moment. But then, like I said, I did the whole reading slump treatment plan and I got cured. After that, I was just in a reading streak. I was reading everything. No wonder I ended up reading 14 books in September. So anyway, after I did that whole treatment thing, I decided that I wanted to read a big book and challenge myself. So that is what I did. I read this book in 5 days, I think. So this book is basically a retelling of the Mahabharata in kind of like a loose sense, because although the main storyline of the Mahabharata has remained same so far with this book, there's a lot of addition that the author has done on multiple levels. We have different unions, different kingdoms, different republics and so on. The characters also, although they are inspired from the actual Mahabharata, we have Krishna, we have Arjun, Kunti, Draupadi, Bhishma, the actual characters of the Mahabharata. The author has given them so many different layers, and it's really interesting to read and see how these characters, who are more humanized than gods, even Krishna for that matter. So it's interesting to see how they took actions, of how they thought, how their actions panned out, any oversights that they may have had, and all of that. And I think it was done really well. So the political system is done really well. Again, there's a sort of magic fantasy element as well, which has been introduced in this book and kind of explored a bit, but I think there will definitely be more exploration into the same in the next book. So hopefully it won't take a long time to come out, and I'm excited to read it. I definitely will, by the way. So yeah, I just hope it's not too long in coming. But overall, it was a really interesting book, and I would definitely recommend it to you all, because it's fun. It's inspired by the Mahabharata, so there are certain elements that you'll find similar. At the same time, there are so many different elements that are completely new and imagined by the author, that makes it so very unique. The characterizations are so good. The characters are so good. You love some, you hate some, and I think your opinions of some characters based on what you know of the Mahabharata and its characters may change as well. Expect that, because it did for me. So yeah, I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I can easily recommend this book to you all, because it's really fun. Pick it up and make your opinions and form your own opinions. So yeah. Alright, so moving on, I'm going to talk about the remaining 6 books which I read in the ebook form from Kindle Unlimited. The first book I want to talk about is The Wrong Bride by Katharina Mora. Now this is a reread. I have read it before and I really love it. No wonder why I picked it up again. I ended up reading it 4 star, and basically the story is that Raven has always liked her soon to be brother-in-law come best friend. So technically her elder sister is supposed to marry the guy, but then what happens is that very much so before the wedding is about to happen, the elder sister breaks it off. And so for all, because of all the business arrangement and everything, now this is an arranged marriage trope. So since it's a business alliance and everything, she has to take the place of her sister, and basically she has to marry him, and basically the story starts from there. Now I actually have read it before, like I said, and I really love it, and it is a theme that I really like. So this is part 1 of the whole Windsor series, one that I really have been enjoying. I've read the first 3 books in the series, really loved and enjoyed them, and I would definitely recommend them all to you as well. So yeah, I think this is a very soft and kind and beautiful romance. There are of course sex scenes as well. They are not closed doors, so go in knowing that. Overall it's really interesting, and to see how they navigate this new situation that they have been given, because they did not imagine that they would marry each other, but now they have to. And now there are so many different elements that they have to manage: business, the different in-law families, her own parents, and everything like that. And of course the elder sister who basically says that she won't marry at the last moment, because of whom our heroine Raven has to take the place of the bride. So all of that, it's a well done story. There are different characters whom you will be introduced to. For a second I lost the word there, and it goes from there. Basically I think you're really going to enjoy it. Read it and see for yourself. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Moving on, I read another book which is called Broken Souls by Ariana Kane. Now we follow the 2 characters, Alicia and Mark. So Alicia has had a very traumatic past, so now she's trying to develop herself, grow into her own self and become better at how she is and everything. So she decides to live away from her parents and become independent and see how it works out. And she has this amazing I'm saying amazing because of course I like the guy, neighbor whose name is Mark, and he's kind of like the grumpy, I think this is to a certain extent Grumpy and Sunshine book, although she's not really sunshiny, she's more so kind of shy and a bit hesitant, but he's definitely grumpy. So yeah, and she keeps on having this little issue. Someday there's a fire in her place, someday the door is broken, and all of that. And so he comes and helps her, and that is how their story builds. There's also the pet dog, his pet dog, who really loves her and everything. It's really interesting to see their story develop, because even apart from the romance, it's a lot about her development as a person, which I think is done really well. Generally I don't rate romance novels a lot, but like I said, the previous book that I was talking about, The Wrong Bride, I rated that 4 star because I think it's really good. This book I ended up rating 3 stars because I think it was good enough, and one that I wouldn't mind recommending others. So yeah, I would recommend it to you. It's kind of long, it's slow pace, it's slow burn as well, so go in knowing that, and yeah, have a good time with it. Next I read a historical fiction, and this book is again The Magic by Lisa Kleypas. Now I've read Lisa Kleypas before. I've read Marrying Mr. Winterbourne, which I really loved, so I wanted to check this one out as well. So it basically follows 2 people, the girl named Aline who belongs to a landed gentry family in England, and we have the guy whose name is McKenna, who I think is perhaps an orphan, so he's not really of the same class as she is, and class is something that the people in this book are very conscious of, and I mean at that time people generally were, so basically he's kind of like the servant boy, she's the princess of the house, and their romance starts from there, from childhood. But of course her father doesn't like it, and so she bargains with him that alright, you sent him away, you won't have any relationship or anything like that, you send him away but you don't harm him. And basically so they are separated at a very young age, but now after many years he's back. So sparks fly and everything. There's a lot of misunderstandings that they have to deal with, they have to clear up and everything. There's a lot of angst as well in this book, and see, I like angst, so I do think it could have been a bit more, not better but more. I would have enjoyed that more. But yeah, overall it was a fun enough read. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars, and even though it's not the guy's fault in this book, he kind of grovels, which I really like. So yeah, it was a fun book. I would recommend it to you all. It's very quick also, again The Magic, so yeah, definitely check it out. So the next 3 books I read, they're all romances, but they were just terrible. I ended up rating all of them 1 star each, so I'm not gonna go or talk more about them. The first book that I read is called My Naughty Boss. It's by Charlotte Grace, and basically we follow 2 people, Sophia and Lucas, who are, you know, basically boss and employee, and their romance. I am not going to recommend this. I rated it 1 star. Then I read Contractual Obligations by L. Rivers, and it is also another kind of like arranged marriage story. We have Lily and Sebastian, who have to be married for business purposes, for the family's sake and everything, and for so long they have been staying away and having their own lives, but then they have to shift to someplace else, and so they have no one else but each other in this new place, and so they get to know more about each other. Again, the romance was abrupt, not expected. There was no chemistry. The love started suddenly and I didn't feel it, so I rated it 1 star. Lastly, I read Her Orc Protector by Zoe Ashwood. Now I came across this book on Instagram, so I was like, how bad can it be? Because we've all read that coronavirus romance book, which was shit. So I read this book as well. Again, like I mentioned before, I rated it 1 star, 1 out of 5 star, because it was kind of weird and didn't. So basically, there are forced proximity issues, size difference issues. There's a reluctant heroine who can't resist her large devoted hero for long. It's a collection. It's also from it. This book is a standalone, but this belongs to a set of books, and this whole set is a collection of standalones, I would say. Each book follows a different guy and his partner. So yeah, the girl is, people in her village think that she's a witch, so she's cast away in the forest, and there in the forest she's rescued by this orc, and then romance blooms because she is his mate. So yeah, wouldn't recommend once again, and I rated it 1 star. So those are all the 14 books I read in the month of September. Overall, I do think that September was a good time, and I had fun overall reading all the books. Not all the books, as you can clearly see from the last ones, but yeah, it was a good month in terms of reading. It really brought me back to reading, especially because I was dealing with that reading slump. So I'm really happy with how things have gone, because that problem is over, reading slump one. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I tried to keep it short, but even then I think it's become a bit long. But then I did talk about 14 books, so time tends to pass by quickly. So yeah, those are all the 14 books I read. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you again sometime soon. Until then, take care. Peace out. Bye.